How y'all doing? I'd like to do something different. I haven't really done it in a while. I haven't really talked about movies. And I had to stop for a while there reviewing two movies. One I didn't care too much for, the other one I deeply enjoyed. Um, and I'm sure compared to what both have kind of similar ideas. They both deal with artificial intelligence. One of them is the 2014 film Transcendence, starring Johnny Depp, Rebecca Hall, Paul Bettany, and Morgan Freeman. The other one is Ex Machina, which I do own a copy of it, with Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, and Oscar Isaac. You know, this one right here. This one came out in 2015. I want to start off with the one I didn't care too much first. That is Transcendence. This may go into spoiler territory, but this movie alone is 2 years old, so you haven't seen it yet. You probably have not over too much. But I will give it credit. This one could have been really, really good, but because it came up with some ideas about developing AI technology. And it almost sounds like it wasn't going to the classic cliches that sci-fi movies go with, as far as it's AI, it's going to take over the world, destroy humanity, and all that. It does deal with that, and it sounds like it was going to be smarter than this, but the execution is not. It didn't do that at all. So let me first go through the plot of this. Dr. Castor, played by Johnny Depp, there he works to create this developing AI, he creates, not AI per se, where the human mind can transcend into computers and hook up the internet and can change the world. Well, because of this, there is a sort of a terrorist group that comes about who's against what his work and research is doing. So they destroy many of the labs as they can. They shoot him with a bullet that has polonium, which is radioactive, and they're going to kill him off that way. But before he dies, he gets himself uploaded into a computer, and then he transcends, and him and his wife, through him manipulating money and funds, they go out to this isolated area near this nearby town out in the desert. They buy all this to create a research facility powered by solar energy, and they do work on nanomachines and new robotic technology and stuff like that. So they do this, and he of course, the counter this terrorist group who's against what they're doing is trying to track him down. They contact Paul Bettany's character Max, another fellow colleague of his, and they convince him to join him. And eventually, everything is saying what they're doing is bad. We gotta stop it. And then, while the other side, Dr. Castor and his wife are trying to increase this technology, they find out ways to use nanomachines to restore people's limbs who have been lost, turn blind people to see, give them great strength and all that. And they use these nanomachines to go further. And there are also those who are cured and who gain benefits from these nanomachines. There are also networks, so he can. So they all have sort of a hive mind. They can all communicate each other autonomously, but they can also be connected. They know what their surroundings are with everything else that's connected with them, including Dr. Castor, still a machine at this point. So eventually they try to stop Castor by uploading a virus through him and everything. And it just, as it sounds pretty smart. Because it deals with this technology. Dr. Castor wants the benefits that these things have. He doesn't mean any ill will to people, but the other side is the counter group. There is scared of technology, and saying there's some fine ideas coming out of this, but the people behind it don't explain to anybody things they should be talking about to the audience. Let me go over a few notes here. No one says anything. Eve, which is Dr. Castor's wife, played by Rebecca Hall, is with him when they start this new facility. There is a scene where Dr. Castor inserts himself into the people he has helped, who have the nanomachines that give them all the strength, new abilities, cure them all the diseases. He's taking over, he's taking away their free will. Okay, there's some stuff to talk about there, in fact, Dr. Castor, now out of his body, no longer in a physical organic body, is now in a machine. And he still loves his wife, so he says. He does this for the benefit of mankind, but there could be more questions about this. Like, is it the fact that he's out of his organic body? What about questions about his humanity? Is it ethics? Like, is it ethical for him to just take over someone else, but no one could do the same to him? Is his advancements, is he going too fast for people to understand? Yeah, they kind of address it to a point. And I'll get to that in a second. But what about his mental state? What if he's in a machine body? The way his mind works is not the same as if he was in a human form. They don't really address that. In fact, every time Eve, his wife, when he comes into a human body, she just simply runs away. She doesn't talk to him, or the fact that he can read her hormone levels, and to try to empathize with her emotional state, she kind of backs with, no, these are mine. The type of thinking that makes sense if he was telepathic. The telepathic argument, that's if someone can go in and read your mind, is it ethical to do so? It doesn't quite fit there. Another side of this was Max, Paul Bettany's character, who was captured by the terrorist group. They captured him and they convinced him to join. The leader talks to him like, I'm a follower of your work there. Here, you wrote this paper there. With what you said, you have to join us to stop us. They kind of quote like one thing, but they don't really express in detail what he means. This guy who's doing the best for mankind with all this new nanomachines, but they never said in detail why he was against what they're doing exactly. So let's see, what do I got here? It also feels kind of small scale, because the only thing affecting anyone is the small number of people that you see in the movie. And they're talking about things that involve worldwide. Like, for the people, once he got the technology that he can restore people's limbs or heal them of diseases and give them strength and new abilities. He said they sent the word out, but very few people come by. If they sent the word out, especially through the internet, and everybody knows about it, you would have a more divided, frustrated world. You have many people who will jump in for the opportunity, but then you had the rest of the world who, would be so scared about it. And yes, they said they would, but they don't show that in the film. It's like, well, they sent it out to the world, and that's it. But everybody you see is a small number of people you see in the entire film. They're the only ones involved. Let's see. They should have talked to Castor, or Dr. Castor, instead of just assuming everything he's doing bad and attacking him for it. As I say, nobody is talking to anybody about going about this what they think is the proper way, and they could have explored a lot of the philosophy, the ethics, with these new technologies. No one wants to talk to anybody. Now, so talk a little more about Eve, how she could have talked with Dr. Castor, her husband, as, I know that's going to sound repeating myself here, but as he's doing all these things, advancing technology, and then she doesn't really start getting upset by what he's doing, or start becoming scared, until he starts to be able to take over the people who's held bodies and gain control of them. And again, she doesn't talk to him. She's like, one night she's in the facility, she's having dinner, he's talking to, through the monitor and all that, and trying to read her, trying to communicate. She doesn't communicate at all, just becomes silent. That should have been the part right there. It's like, honey, listen, your ability, we understand that you network everybody, so now, and since you're part of the internet, you network everybody, you can get into everybody too, but what about people's free will? Are people aware that you're doing this? Do they accept this? I mean, as far as I know, you just leap in and they have no more control of their lives. It's all under you. So what about what about that? That was one of the things that could have given the audience something to think about. It could have given them, could have filled them in about, it could have led to other things. And again, he probably didn't think about it because, again, it could have connected to the fact that he's no longer in a human body. Again, they say this, so it's like, oh, he's no longer in a body now, so he's no longer himself. They just gave it to you, so you're going to, as the audience, think that, well, he's just going to be be like Skynet from Terminator now, just going to try and take over everything. Again, they could have explored this, but they didn't. They just rushed through it so you can think that's what's going to happen. But one of the aspects of the movie is that the reason why he's doing all this, because this was her idea, this was her dream, to use these technologies to help people in ways that modern technology cannot do, to get rid of all pollution, to clean up the air, the water, and everything. And he's doing everything in his abilities and his powers, Dr. Castor, to make this dream come alive. And so far it looks like he's doing it. They don't show, at least to me, obviously in the movie, that he's going downhill. And there's another thing they could have done, because again, no longer in a human body, he's trying to do the right thing by improving these technologies, trying to do the right thing by doing this and doing that, but he does this thinking he's doing the right thing. He doesn't look back until someone points out to him that he's actually going the wrong direction. It doesn't show that in the movie. He's just advancing technologies, and of course they attack them first. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy on the terrorist group that, you know, if he keeps going, everything's going down bad. But no one's talking to each other at all. The terrorist group's going to assume that everything's bad. The wife isn't talking to his husband. Paul Bettany does not explain they don't talk about in Paul Bettany's character's paper why everything is bad. The terrorist group acts more like Greenpeace. In fact, they act more emotionally than thinking. Then one scene in the movie, she's the main group. She's talking to Paul Bettany. He's like, I went and saw his research where he hooked a monkey up to the computer, and I just remember the screams. Okay, fine. I can see emotionally where it works, but it shouldn't be the sole reason about transcending human beings who, with the one person that succeeded, isn't screaming at all. His body is now dead. His mind's in the computer. Nobody's exploring. Nobody's talking to each other, exploring, what is good, what is bad about whatever anyone's doing. They just want to keep it all divided. So you reach the end where everyone's fighting each other, and no one is going to attack. And of course, they attack him first, so he's on the defensive. Even though he never did any harm to anybody, he's always helped to somebody. So again, these are just people acting. Some of these people are intelligent. It doesn't matter who's intelligent, who's not. Everyone's acting stupid, and all this is just a rush into the old cliches that follows in these type of stories. Now, as I was saying, when you watch this movie, it sounds very intelligent, but the execution is by not telling but the characters not talking to each other about these things, and in essence not talking to you, the audience. You're going to have mainly two groups of people. You got the people who want a direct answer and are not getting it, and that's people like, why is everybody so scared of all this? And you got the other group of people who try to fill in their own blanks. And with all that went, to me, all that would happen in this movie is going to lead people to think that it's just going to lead to the artificial intelligence and nano machines being bad for everybody. Like taking over to the terrorist side. Oh, we got to stop him. But no one really strictly says why they need to stop him. Sure, it's kind of scary at first, but in simple understanding would have worked. And so it leads down, well, it leads a lot of people to, at least I think, to go down into the old cliche of all the science fiction involving nanomachines and AI and all this stuff that once you develop it, it's just going to lead to man's downfall. So that's where I think the movie fails. It doesn't go in and talk, and they could have consulted with many people working in technology. They could have talked to psychiatrists. They could have talked to people who talk about the ethics of science and stuff like this. They could have consulted. The writer could have consulted a lot of these people, and gained all this info, and could have made a better movie out of this, but he didn't. So that's why I think Transcendence is not that great a movie. It had great potential, beautifully shot, wonderful cast. And special effects was pretty good too, but not nearly as good as the next movie, as I'm going to talk about, Ex Machina, which I didn't write notes for because I have a copy of it right here. It's very good. This one I think is much superior. The story of this involves a programmer who won the lottery to go to a special secluded house of the CEO of a major search engine company, bigger than Google, it seems. So he meets the guy. He's out there in a very beautiful, secluded area. The borders of this property, as he's talking to the helicopter pilot, it was like 200 miles. You know, they went past it 200 miles ago, or something like that. So he goes there. He goes to this what looks like a very small cabin, but then he gets ID. It's actually a beautiful modern home. That's also a research facility. It's surrounded by this beautiful backdrop of mountainous forests and all that. In fact, they filmed this, I guess, somewhere in Scandinavia. Would love to visit there. So he visits the CEO, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing there? You know, let's just relax a little bit, buddy, in here." He seems like a kind of a cool guy. And and the CEO signs him his little contract. It says the purpose of inviting him on this special winning is to help him with a Turing test of an android he's been working on. And he meets, and for a week he's going to have these sessions with her, talking to her and see if she passes the Turing test. And this android, it turns out to besides her face, you just see the body robot. Basically, as you see her with this, and her name is Ava. So he spends his time talking to her. How does she think and everything? Ask her a series of questions. But then after the sessions, he talks to the CEO guy, played by Oscar Isaac. Sorry if I don't know the names of this one too well. And eventually, strange things start happening here. He gets convinced that Ava, this machine, she's starting to fall for him. He's starting to fall for her. But sorry if I lose my train of thought here. But with that in mind, he also starts to see evidence that the CEO treats her very badly. So when it has that, so now it gets to a little bit of dark places here. He starts to question his own humanity, starts finding out more what the CEO is doing, and he eventually comes down to try and help her escape. But then he finds out throughout the week what the CEO's intentions are doing. Why was he chosen? How did it was a lottery, right? Is she actually fall in love with him? Is there other alternative motives involved? And which one of these three gets what they want at the end? So I try not to spoil too much of this. I'm just trying to set the basic background story you probably get in a trailer. But I do find this one much superior. One, it's not trying to go for bigger ideas like Transcendence is. It's very small scale. There's only 4 people in this movie. You got the CEO, the programmer who won the lottery, you got Ava the android, and you got the house assistant who doesn't speak English, so she's just there on the side, serving the CEO. The beautiful house, the sort of minimalist modern home set in this beautiful background, it has this wonderful isolating effect on it. Combined with the music, it has this wonderful sort of synthesized music that adds to the atmosphere. It can be beautiful and majestic in one scene and turns quite haunting and horrific in the later scenes. And I think because it's not going for bigger ideas, it's going for something more personal. The emotions of particularly the programmer and his growing relationship with Ava, and him trying to help her escape. And through the minimalistic house and and through the small number of characters, it really adds to the effect of what's going on here. Sorry if I don't sound like I'm giving this movie as deepest thought as Transcendence. I think Transcendence, again, you watch it, it's like, wow, this looks like it has some great ideas, but it didn't. It was badly executed. It was just led down through the story and led down to many audience thinking, and I've seen this happen with a couple of reviewers, like it's doing the same. For those who hated it for similar reasons I did, and those who and there was at least one I watched who made a review with another guy, and she just said, well, you don't want these machines taking over, that's what they're afraid of. And again, with Transcendence, it is not even, it doesn't even want to try to break out of that old cliche. It goes right back down to it through a guise that was going to be different. This one, I think, well, you probably could watch this one and most likely predict what's going to happen. It's executed very beautifully, and the special effects in this one are superior as far as interfacing the human face with a machine body. In fact, in the DVD features, it shows how they did that. And it just goes to show where so many people who complain about CGI being a bad thing. There's too much CGI, too much CGI. CGI is not a bad thing. It is a tool. I said this in one of my videos, and there's one guy, reviewer, Cal Green, also known as Owen Citizen, did a much better video about how the proper use of CGI could be magnificent, and this is a great example of that, where you see her face moving, but it's in a body, you can see through all the parts and everything. So yeah, CGI is not a bad thing. It's the execution of the CGI that really makes or break a special effect. And this one, you kind of feel like this is an artificial body. The actress, forgive me, Alicia Vikander, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, rising star now. This one, it shows where she can really shine. She has this beautiful face, but when she moves, she has a sort of grace about her that does feel like, wow, this could be a very graceful machine and all that. And it really goes into this, you can really feel, this is one of those, with Ex Machina, you get into the programmer's mind, it's like, hey, he really, you can really feel like he's fall for her, and your mind can connect the dots, and seeing where he is trying to figure things out, but also trying to keep his emotions in check. But yeah, and it's just better well executed, I think, through its minimalistic approach of trying to do this film. I really hope that the guy who wrote this really goes into more territory with this. So there we go. That's my rant between two science fiction movies of a similar theme of robotics and AI. Transcendence 2014. As I was saying, it's a great setup, bad execution because it just leads down to the same old cliches about all of artificial intelligence or people uploading computers, that everything's going to be bad at the end. And if you watch enough sci-fi or read enough sci-fi, this is old as hell, and it doesn't do anything for the audience as something new. Okay, maybe if you're a first-time watcher, let's just say you're somebody who never grew up watching sci-fi, this could be your first time being exposed to this. Okay, that could be a good movie. You like the way it went out. But for many of us who, once you watch The Terminator and so many else of its ilk, you want to look for something different, much more smarter than this, because it just kind of got old. Ex Machina, again, I'm not going to say it's anything unique. I'm sure if you look for classic sci-fi stories from Twilight Zone to old science fiction anthologies and books and all that, you will find similar stories to this, but you don't find it too often in movies, especially in a modern movie. So yes, if you want me to recommend a movie, definitely this one. Transcendence, give it a rental, give it a shot. You'll see what I mean. You might see something else. But yeah, that's my rant, and something I had in my mind for a while, and I'm finally glad I got to do it. So sorry for all the ums and all that, and thank you very much for watching, and you all have a nice evening.